Shields up, Ironbreakers. Today I'm going to be bringing you my full guide to No Man's Sky Expedition 14, also known as the Liquidators Expedition, which is the expedition that is themed around Starship Troopers. Now I understand that with this particular expedition there's going to be a lot of new players joining the game because we just received a massive update to No Man's Sky in the form of No Man's Sky Worlds, which completely revamps the whole universe of the game, and that is probably going to attract a lot of newcomers. So a lot of you might even not exactly understand the concept of expeditions in No Man's Sky, so I'm going to briefly touch up on that, but there's only so much that I can go over in this video because otherwise it's like, oh, let's get into the topic of how to actually craft a metal plate. First you got some ferrite, it's like this would be a 3-4 hour video, right? So if you really need to learn how to craft basic things in the game, you might want to be looking at something else, but I do want to make this as beginner friendly as possible. So the way in which you join an expedition, you can't just jump into your main save and then take that character into an expedition. An expedition is basically a new game. You go to new game, and then in here there's the option to join the Liquidators Expedition. You might be wondering, well, why do I have to start a new save? Like, what's the idea behind this? And the reasoning is they want you to experience the progression of the game again, but in a different way. It is much more fast to go through the progression of an expedition that it is on your main save, and I believe that at the end of the expedition you'll be able to convert your expedition into a regular save if that is something that you want, so your time is not necessarily wasted. But most people, at least from my understanding, they jump into expeditions and then they just get the rewards that get applied to the main save, because a lot of the rewards that you're going to be gaining from doing the expedition will get applied to your main save, and that is usually the way people do it. And then when the expedition's over, they just go back to the main save, take the rewards that they want out of it, and they're done. So that's how it works. That's why it works like that. I don't think that the system is perfect, but this is how it works, just in case you're wondering. Now, once you join the expedition, you're not going to be where I am. You're going to be at the beginning of the planet and all of that stuff, and I'll show you footage of how this works. But for now, I just wanted to give you guys the idea of how things work. You're going to jump into expedition. You basically press escape or whatever it is, or you start, whatever, to go into the menu, and you go to expedition, and this basically tells you the instructions of the things that they want you to do. Now, something that I believe is new to this particular expedition, it's also been a while since I've jumped back into No Man's Sky, so bear with me here, are these optional milestones. And apparently some people were confused by these because it just says optional milestone, purged by fire, do your part for the Liquidators. But basically this is a community objective. So if you click this, you'll notice that it says here, do your part for the Liquidators, part of Expedition 14, Phase 1. There's multiple phases to this, so if we go to Phase 2, there's another Purge by Fire. We go to Phase 3, there's another Purge by Fire. And basically the objective here is to kill as many bugs as possible. So this is a community objective. Everybody has to pitch in as much as possible, and you can check what the current goals are. Now, you can play expeditions offline if you want to. I believe you're still contributing to the goals of the, Purged by Fire objective. At least I certainly hope so, because we are really far behind. But basically just kill stuff. Do your part by liquidating as many biological horrors, sentinels, and spawnlings of the vile brood as possible. The universe is counting on you. So kill as many things as you can, which ultimately is the main objective of the expedition anyways, so you're going to be doing a lot of killing just by doing your regular objectives, and then if you want to participate some more, you just go around different worlds and kill stuff. That is how we're going to be doing the Purged by Fire objective, so that's not something that I would stress too much about. Now, usually the way expeditions work is you're going to see your instructions here. So for instance, all guns blazing, reach your starship. If you click on any of these, they're going to give you a general direction of where you're supposed to be going, but not all of them do, and that is why you have this guide where I will tell you pretty much what you need to do at any step. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be skipping steps around, because you might be thinking, oh, I go through Phase 1, then I go to Phase 2, and I do the objectives on Phase 2, and it's like, no. We're going to be doing these objectives a little bit more efficiently than that. So for instance, the Apex Predator, we're going to be getting that right on the first planet. And there's a couple of more things we're going to be getting on the first planet, like Blood in the Water. We're going to be getting that on the first planet as well. So that's sorted, and you don't have to be looking through different worlds to get all of this stuff done. But basically the idea is you complete an objective. After you complete an objective, you come back to this screen, you click the objective you completed, and you get rewards. It's very important. Don't forget to come to this screen and collect the rewards. The game will remind you on the lower right-hand side of the screen. Anyways, it's like, hey, you got rewards to go pick up, but remember to come back to this menu, pick up your rewards because you're going to be needing them, and this is why the progression is going to be faster. So for instance, you complete all guns blazing, you're going to get Unstable Plasma 5 as well as Supreme Defensive Systems upgrade. This means they're going to give you stuff to put on your shields most likely. And then in here, Dust Off, Leave the Planet. They're going to give you the plans to make your own hyperdrive. They're going to give you a planetary chart, which you don't really need, and they're going to give you Starship Launch Fuel, which allows you to, fill up your the launch thrusters of your ship. Once you do acceleration, you're going to be getting the base computer plans, and basically they're going to constantly reward you, which is going to very much speed up your progression throughout the game. So the idea is complete all these objectives, and then you're going to be getting these rewards on your main save. So let's actually get started with the guide proper now that we've done the intro. And basically what you want to be doing right at the beginning is you get to the planet, you want to run to your ship. They're going to give you a header as to where your ship is, so you just need to follow that, get your ship. Now, as you run towards your ship, you're going to be finding that there's probably going to be bugs around there. There's going to be a ton of players if you're playing in multiplayer. In that specific zone, there's going to be a ton of players spawning, a ton of ships spawning. Probably there's going to be ships spawning on top of one another, which happened to me. So things are going to get very hectic at the beginning of the expedition itself. But basically, get to your ship, and along the way, if you see any bugs, just kill them. Kill them as much as you can, because that is also going to be contributing to another objective, which is the Exterminator, that requires you to take out a couple of, I forget if it's 12 or 16 monsters, but either way, you're going to be killing well above like 50 by the time you're done with this, so you don't have to stress too much about it, but just get a couple of them dead, because that way you get rewards a little bit faster and you progress through the whole thing a little bit faster. Now, when you get to your ship, you can also complete the Reach Your Spaceship objective, so collect your rewards from that. If in the meantime you happen to complete Exterminator, collect your rewards from that. And now you want to go ahead and just collect basic resources. This is something that is a part of the beginning experience of No Man's Sky every single time. So swap your weapon into mining mode and collect as much carbon as you possibly can, collect as much oxygen as you possibly can, collect as much sodium as you possibly can, and collect as much ferrite as you possibly can. I'm not saying like go ham and collect 9,999, but collect a decent amount, because these are materials that you're going to be needing along the way to craft stuff for your survival, to recharge like your radiation stuff. These are just things that are good to have at the beginning of a No Man's Sky experience. And if you collect them now, you're not going to be, wondering, oh, I need to go farm this stuff now, even though I was doing this other objective. Just get like 1,000 of each, give or take, maybe a little bit more, and you'll have a decent starting base. Now, the next thing, you want to make sure that you find copper. So open up your visor and look for copper. It's the thing that's got like that losangle symbol with a cross in the middle. Blue. It's like a blue square that's tilted 45 degrees. It's got a cross in the middle. Look for that and look for one that has copper. Go to copper and then swap into your terrain manipulator, put it into mine mode, and then press R, or I forget which key it is on a controller, but basically diminish the size of your of the little bubble for the mining thing to its smallest size. Start mining away, because it's going to give you as much copper as possible. The reason you need copper is you're going to need to refine it into chromatic metal, because you're going to need a whole bunch of that in order to craft microprocessors, to be able to craft your hyperdrive, which is going to be something that you're going to be needing to do later. So make sure that you pick up as much of this as possible. While you're on the planet, make sure to use your jetpack as often as possible, because there's also an objective that is called Close Air Support. Now, most veterans of No Man's Sky are likely going to be using their jetpack often regardless, but if you're a newbie and you're like, oh, why would people use their jetpack all the time if they don't need to like jump or something like that? There's a mechanic in the game that the developers have left in there. At this point, I would consider it to be an intentional mechanic, but basically if you do a melee hit and then immediately after you press your jetpack, it's going to give you forward momentum and you're basically jetpacking forward. So you're moving really, really fast. You might want to practice that a little bit, but fundamentally, fly with your jetpack as much as possible, because that's going to complete one of the objectives called Close Air Support, and that's going to give you upgrades for your jetpack, which is going to greatly aid in your mobility. You don't have to complete this objective immediately, just be aware of it and use your jetpack as often as you can. in case you're a newbie and you didn't know that, so, you know. Now, this planet also has hazardous flora. If you open up your visor, you'll see this as red exclamation marks. One of the objectives, called Law of the Jungle, requires that you kill as much hazardous flora as possible, so kill a bunch of them. You don't have to finish the objective on this planet. You're going to be finding a lot of hazardous flora around, but just in case, you know, you're grinding for materials at the beginning, you're getting a couple of carbon, and you're getting some ferrite, and you're getting all these things. If you run into some hazardous flora, kill it as well, because you're going to be moving towards another objective. So this will get you your objectives a little bit faster. Now, once you get a decent chunk of resources and copper, chromatic metal, all of this stuff, fix your ship, take off, and visit the first space station. The main reason I like to visit space stations at every jump is because this allows you to warp back in case you're like, oh, I missed this thing, now I have to go back to this system. Just go back through, you know, use teleporters and all of that stuff. You don't have to visit the space station if you don't want to. I would just recommend you to do that. But basically, at this point, you will have unlocked your hyperdrive, so you can install the hyperdrive onto your ship, get ready to jump, but don't jump just yet. Go back to the planet. The name of the planet, in case you forgot, is Eardog Sigma. This is the first planet that you land on. Go back to that planet, because that planet is going to have a couple of more objectives that we can do right off the bat, and it's actually fairly easy to do. So you go back to the planet, and you are going to land close to the water, okay? But not like a lake or a river. Look at the map of the world before you start moving in, and look for a huge ocean, right? And then land near there, okay? Once you land there, jump into the water and use your scanner and start looking for an, I believe it's called an alluring specimen. It's like a little red square with a bubble, with a little ball on top. Look for one of those. This is not going to be immediately obvious where it is, so just start swimming through the ocean, see a little bit of fishies. Scan the fishies, by the way, because in the waters of this planet, you will find one of the things that I find the most annoying to get in this particular expedition, which is the apex predator. Now, the objective of the apex predator goal is going to be to find a creature that has an aggression rating above 12, whatever that is. I never like finding these things. I find it really boring, but, you know, whatever. This first planet has one, so I would definitely recommend you look here, because further down the line, I found like a planet that says, this one has an apex predator, it looks like a mantis. And I was in there for over an hour and I couldn't find jack, okay? Whereas this fish, I found it in a couple of minutes. So just scan everything. The fish almost looks like a squid thing with hands and feet. You should be able to identify it. Swims pretty close to the top of the water most of the times. He's pretty fast. He's a little bit rare, but scan all the fishies in there while you're looking for the alluring specimen, and you will eventually come across the apex predator right in the first planet, and that's going to knock off easily 1 or 2 hours from your search in this expedition. That's why I recommend doing it now. Now, in regards to the alluring specimen, you're going to need to find 3 of those. Okay, like I said, look for the icon. It's a red icon with a little ball on it. Basically, when you find that, you're going to find this plant-looking thing with a couple of lights hanging off. It almost looks like an anglerfish trap, because that's exactly what it is. You're going to go to the tips of the lights, you're going to pick those up, and as you pick those up, it's going to activate, and an anglerfish is going to come in to chomp you. But you're going to have a big based shotgun, and you're going to shoot that thing right in its ugly mouth a bunch of times until it dies. Once it dies, you're going to have to do this 3 times, because you need to do it 3 times, and you're going to get the objective blood in the water. So right off the bat, in this planet, you will have completed reach your spaceship, maybe exterminator. You don't have to complete exterminator, but you might. Close air support, law of the jungle, dust off, blood in the water, and apex predator. But the most important ones are definitely blood in the water and apex predator. So blood in the water in particular might take you a little bit longer, swimming through the water, trying to find these 3 anglerfish. If you swim for too long of a time, you're like, man, this thing does not spawn. What the hell is going on? Get on your ship, fly to a different spot in the ocean, look somewhere else. Maybe there's too many players there. Maybe turn things offline so that you're not competing for resources with other players. But you will eventually find it, and you'll get blood of the water out of the way. Anyway, once you get all of these things done, get off the planet and start your warp to the next system. Now, depending on the ship that you have, depending on the upgrades that you might have done to it, depending on how involved you are. The next jump might skip a couple of systems, but you should go to the next suggested system, which should be the system of Netyaok 2. And once you warp to that system, you're going to also unlock the acceleration goal, so that's a couple of more rewards, and then you're going to reach a system that is a dissonant system. Now this is important because there's also an objective in that system where you can kill a whole bunch of corrupted sentinels, because that is another objective that you have to do, and you can get that one done early on, which is just makes things easy. Now, because I was playing with multiplayer turned on, the planet that I landed on was called New Jersey, and it was discovered by George Costanza. But if you're in the system of Netyaok 2, just be aware it's the planet that has rings. It's the only planet with rings, so it should be fairly easy to identify, just in case you're playing offline and your planet's not called New Jersey. But anyway, you land on that planet and you're going to just want to go ahead, pick a fight with a bunch of corrupted sentinels. Your weapon is actually very powerful, so it's not too hard to kill corrupted sentinels. You should also have, because of all the rewards you've already gotten, you should have gotten some modifiers to your shield, so you're going to be pretty tanky, so killing a bunch of corrupted sentinels is not going to be a problem. So you just go ahead, pick a fight with them, and kill 32 of them. This is going to complete your objective Purple Mist, and most likely along the way you're also going to complete Lock and Load, which just involves shooting a bunch of guns. That's it. You just have to shoot a whole bunch of times. So that should be fairly easy to do, and that's another 2 easy objectives out of the way. Now, while you're in this planet, if you happen to come across any of those inverted mirrors corrupted sentinels, make sure to kill those too, because you're going to, I mean, it's not essential for you to do this, but if you find them, okay, you might make things easier for you in another objective, so go ahead and kill those guys, and you will get a couple of inverted mirrors, because those will be able to be converted into nanites for another objective later down the line. Now, I noticed when I was on the planet of New Jersey that apparently there were a lot of storms. Now, if you happen to be in a storm, there's another objective that is called Snowblind, and Snowblind just involves running around, not jetpacking around, running around. So run when you're on a storm, run in the ground. I think you need to do 1,400 units of running in a storm. You don't have to complete everything on this planet. You will find storms on other planets. Just keep it in the back of your mind. If there's a storm, I need to run for a little bit, because that is going to contribute towards the Snowblind objective as well. But anyways, once you get your Purple Mist goal done by killing 32 corrupted sentinels, and hopefully you will have gathered a couple of inverted mirrors. Don't go crazy with these, like I said, just like if you see them on the way as you're fighting these corrupted sentinels, pick them up. But again, no need to go crazy, because we're gonna double down on a lot of these objectives, so that you're gonna have a lot of avenues where you can kind of like slack a little bit, okay? Don't slack on the storms though, because the storm thing was actually one of the things that I was missing by the time I was getting towards the end. But once you get your Purple Mist goal completed, get your rewards, and you can exit the system, go to the next system, and basically your next objective is going to be Dropzone 1. Now, if you don't know where you have to go for Dropzone 1, you can actually go down to the Expedition menu and just click where it says Dropzone 1, and it will give you a waypoint of where you're supposed to be going. Once you reach Dropzone 1, you're going to need to find the structure. If you are playing solo, this involves using your visor, and it's going to give you some general directions of where you have to go when you follow that and eventually get to a building. If you're playing in multiplayer, it should be fairly easy for you to just find it before you even land your ship, because there will be a bunch of player messages there. So you can just home in on the messages, land there close to where the waypoint is for Dropzone 1, go inside the structure, use the panel that's going to give you instructions as to where you have to go next. And that is going to mark Infestation Alpha for you. So that's another waypoint that you have to go to. Get on your ship, go to the next waypoint. Once you get to the waypoint, the second you jump out of your ship, a brood mother is going to spawn. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to kill that, kill her, kill a little bit of the dudes that are around, and then you're going to use the panel inside the structure, and that is going to complete for you the Dropzone 1 goal and Infestation Alpha goal. That's another 2 that are done. Now, before you leave this outpost, and by the way, the drop zones, they're all pretty much the same. So you get to the drop zone, you interact with the terminal. Once you interact with that terminal, it gives you another destination, which leads you to an infestation. You're going to get out of your ship, spawns a brood mother, kill her minions, use the panel, and it completes it. Every single drop zone works like this. And every single drop zone is going to be in one of these infested buildings. So these infested buildings also have these little purple eggs on the outside, which are whispering eggs. You'll want to make sure and pick those up. So you just go in there and you pick up those eggs, and they're going to give you this thing called a larval core. You're going to want to pick up as many of them as you possibly can. I forget exactly how many you can get at each of these, but probably somewhere in the vicinity of more than 10. You're going to get 10 larval cores. These are going to be important for later, but basically pick those up and you can go ahead and kill a couple more of the swarm because they're going to be spawning. And so you can kill them, and that also contributes towards your exterminator goal, just in case you haven't done it yet, but likely at this point you will have completed your exterminator goal. But just in case you haven't, you can kill those guys. Now, another thing is, this is actually a really good point at which you can complete another objective called Fire in the Hole. The way that you do this is whenever you pick up one of these whispering eggs, a bunch of aliens are going to sprout from the ground, and they're going to be fairly close to one another, so just lob a grenade in them. Now, I don't know if at this point you'll have the big grenade, but I know that you have the paralysis grenade. I think that one should count too, but if it doesn't, a little bit later on another outpost, you'll be able to do this again. I'll remind you when we get to the next drop zones. So, you have to hit 4 of them with 1 grenade. That'll complete the Fire in the Hole objective. Now, when you get these whispering eggs, there's another objective called Provocateur. Requires you to pick up, 12 or 16 of these eggs, whatever. You're going to be picking up way more than those. But now you're going to be thinking, Rurikhan, these things are taking way too much space in my inventory. Okay, pull out your refiner. Refine those larval cores into nanites. There's an objective that requires you to get nanites. It's called bleeding foam. So you're going to collect those, transform them into nanites. If you happen to need credits for some reason, you can save a few to sell for credits. But personally, I would use all of them to get nanites because you don't really need credits during an expedition, in my opinion. But, to each their own. So basically at this point, you should have also completed Drop Zone 1, Infestation Alpha, Provocateur, because I believe you can complete Provocateur in your very first one, but if you don't worry, there'll be more options to get Whispering Eggs in the next drop zone. If you completely whiffed your Fire in the Hole objective, again, don't stress about it, you'll be able to do it later, and just make sure to pick up as many of these larval cores as possible and convert them. The inverted mirrors are also for bleeding foam, so if they're also burning a hole in your inventory, go ahead and refine those inverted mirrors into nanites as well, and that will free up a little bit of inventory space. Now, the planet that you're in right now, every single drop zone is going to be a planet that features Vile Brood. Now, Vile Brood means that in this planet, there's also a chance for you to find something called a Vile Grub. Now, the Vile Grub is something that you're going to need to pick up because there's an objective that is called Metamorphosis. It requires you to crush a Vile Grub. Now, I don't have to stress about this, so it's like, man, I'm looking everywhere. I can't find Vile Grubs anywhere. It's okay. There's 5 drop zones, okay? You just need to find 1 Vile Grub by the time you get to the 5th drop zone, or in the 5th drop zone is going to be the one where you're going to be looking for this Vile Grub. And once you pick up the Vile Grub, go ahead and crush it. A brood mother is going to spawn, and you're going to have to go ahead and kill it, and that will complete the objective Metamorphosis. Now, while you're in this planet, do remember you are going to, if there happen to be storms, because I noticed there are also storms in this planet, run a little bit, get that Snowblind thing going. And again, if you happen to find hazardous flora, kill it for Law of the Jungle. By this point, you should have been able to have completed Law of the Jungle, but if you didn't, I'm going to remind you one more time when we get to the next drop zone. But just be aware, these will be the things that you'll be able to do by now. Drop Zone 1, Infestation Alpha, Provocateur, Fire in the Hole, Bleeding Foam, Law of the Jungle, Snowblind, Metamorphosis. Okay, once you complete this, again, you don't have to complete all of them, but try to complete as many of these as possible. You can move on to the next system. Once again, go to Expedition, click Drop Zone 2, and boom, jump into the system for Drop Zone 2. Now, once you get to that system, before you start heading towards Drop Zone 2, summon the anomaly, go inside the anomaly, and unlock the Advanced Mining Laser. Now, the reason we're unlocking the Advanced Mining Laser, you have to go into the vendors of the anomaly and go in there and unlock the mining laser on the weapon. We call it the multi-tool station. Unlock that there. And the reason you want to unlock that is because I believe that that's going to make one of the goals called the Fat of the Land a little bit easier to do. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit further ahead, but once you unlock the advanced mining laser, go ahead and mark up Dropzone 2 and head towards that. Get the Dropzone 2, works very much like it worked in Dropzone 1. Get to the building, use the terminal, and they give you the coordinates for Infestation Beta. Go there, kill the Blood Queen, use the terminal, you're done. And then after you complete Infestation Beta, again, if you still need Whispering Eggs, you want to go ahead and collect those as much as possible so that you get those larval cores so that you can do the Bleeding Foam thing. There's also another chance for Hazardous Flora in case you still haven't done Law of the Jungle, and another opportunity for Vile Grub. But after this one, I'm going to stop mentioning this in case you haven't gotten your Vile Grub yet. This is another opportunity to get it. And while you're in here, now that you have your advanced lasers, what I would do is I would look for a chunk of resources that is reasonably close together, particularly if it has advanced resources in there, like the stuff that is a little bit harder to mine because that usually gives you more resources than the regular ones. But find one that's reasonably clumped together, get your advanced laser the crap out of those things all in one burst. You need to collect 900 resources in one burst. But basically, get all those things together and try to laser everything down in one fell swoop, and hopefully you'll be able to get the fat of the land. If you fail it, don't worry too much about it. Try it again in the next planet. Shouldn't be too hard. But anyway, the next couple of steps are going to be very, very simpler. You're going to go ahead and just repeat what we've done for Dropzone 3, Dropzone 4, and Dropzone 5. So you get to the drop zone, find the structure, use the terminal, takes you to the next infestation, kill Blood Queen, use terminal, collect Whispering Eggs if you still need those, refine the larval cores so that you can get the Bleeding Foam, all of that done. Repeat this for the next 3 drop zones. This is super easy. You just click the drop zone, follow the waypoints, super easy to complete. But do Drop Zone 3, Infestation Gamma, Drop Zone 4, Infestation Delta, Drop Zone 5, Infestation Omega. And once you get to this one, you're going to have to do one more, which is going to be revealed at the end. It's called Swarm Song. I'm not going to tell you what that one is about because there's a little bit of story to the whole thing and whatnot. But, go ahead. Once again, you click there. It'll take you to a location, and it works pretty much like a regular infestation. And once you do that, you will have finished all of those objectives. Now at this point, if you've been following my instructions, you should have completed everything with the exception potentially of Bleeding Foam. If you haven't refined enough larval cores or whatever, don't even worry too much about it because there's still one more safeguard. I gave you inverted mirrors, larval cores, but don't worry, baby, because I got more, okay? If you still haven't completed Bleeding Foam, don't panic yet. We're going to get there. Now, another objective is Spare Ribs. Now, you should have been killing a whole bunch of aliens along the way, so you should have plenty of rancid meat. And one of the rewards is going to give you a nutrients processor, so you should already have that. So basically, put down your nutrients processor, put the rancid meat in there, boom, Bob's your uncle. You have Spare Ribs done. Now, the next one is going to be Scrap Metal. Scrap Metal is actually an objective all the way down in either Phase 2 or Phase 3. Doesn't really matter. You're going to do this at the end. Why? In the system where you do Drop Zone 5, there's a planet that is called New Euroline. I believe I don't know how to pronounce these things. New Euroline. It might even swap names by the time you get there. But fundamentally, if you open up your map that shows you all the planets, it's going to be the planet that's smack dab in the middle of the map. It is the middlemost planet, and that planet has aggressive sentinels. So you're going to go to that planet, land there, and once you land, you're going to deploy your Minotaur kit. They should have given you a Minotaur kit thing that I haven't told you what to do yet. Hopefully you haven't deleted it, because otherwise you're going to need to go ahead and craft another Minotaur thing. But basically deploy the Minotaur kit that you were given with one of the rewards up until this point. Once you deploy that Minotaur kit, apply all of the upgrades that you possibly can from all of the stuff that you've gotten, because they also give you upgrades for your Minotaur. Apply all of those, align all of the technology in your Minotaur so that it's ready for combat, and then pick a fight with the Sentinels and use the Minotaur to fight them. And you want to escalate this fight all the way up to Wanted level 5 so that they send in the big walker, because that is going to be your objective. But basically you're going to be killing a ton of Sentinels. That's going to be your last objective for the whole expedition, okay? You're going to pick a fight until it escalates to the maximum, then you're going to kill the big dog, the what's it called, the Iron Walker or whatever. And you're going to need to do this 4 times. Now, I don't know if there's any veterans out there that know of a better way to spawn the Iron Walker. Personally, I don't. I'm still a bit of a No Man's Sky noob, but that's the way that I'm going to be doing it. So if there's a better way, leave it in the comments down below and I'll favorite it or pin it or whatever for a better way for people to farm for the Iron Walker. I only know of doing it by escalating the fights with the Sentinels. But basically, once you complete the Iron Giant goal, which is to kill 4 of these Iron Walkers, you will have also completed Scrap Metal, which is the objective to kill a certain number. I think it might be 32 regular Sentinels. Doesn't matter. You're going to be ending up killing way more than those to get the Iron Walkers. And you should have also gotten Timberwolf, which is the objective to kill 50 hostile enemies with your mech. So once you kill 50 of these Sentinels, if you don't feel like fighting inside the mech, feel free to step outside and just kill them regularly. But I think it might be easier and faster with the mech if you're good at using the mech, which I'm not, so it's whatever. But yeah, so at this point you should have completed pretty much every single objective with the exception of Purged by Fire, because that is a community objective. It's going to take some time. And just in case, at this point, you still haven't completed Bleeding Foam, despite the fact that I told you, get Inverted Mirrors, get Larval Cores, but you're like, but I was lazy, I didn't get all the Larval Cores, Rurikhan. It's okay, because killing all of these Sentinels will give you a bunch of salvaged glass that you can now use, and that will give you the, those little Sentinel module upgrades that you can go up to a space station and sell for nanites. So there should be way more ways of farming, way more nanites that you would have gotten by this point than what you need. But, just in case you still need more, there's a salvage glass from this last farm as well that you can go ahead and sell those modules that come from the salvage glass, and that should award you with 6,000 nanites that you need for Bleeding Foam. And this should have completed every single objective. Now, if you're missing anything, scroll back to the video, look to the parts that I talked about, some of the other objectives. You might still be missing Snowblind, because Snowblind was one of the ones, because we're usually, especially if you've played No Man's Sky enough, you're so used to melee jetpacking that you're just like, oh, I'm in a storm, melee jetpack. As a matter of fact, the storms pretty much incentivize you to use the jetpack, because a lot of the storms actually improve the usefulness of the jetpack. So you might have missed Snowblind, but just go into any planet that has like a storm and, walk during the storm. That's it. It doesn't take like a genius. The hardest thing in this one for me was most definitely the Apex Predator, because I always find those things to be friggin' annoying, really. But yeah, hopefully this helps you guys out. Let me know if I missed anything. Like I said, this is the first time I'm doing an expedition guide, so I'm a bit of a noob, but hopefully this helps some of you guys out there. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share it with your friends. If you have people that are also trying to do this, it really helps me out, particularly because the algorithm doesn't know that I do No Man's Sky content, and I'd really like to have No Man's Sky be a staple game in the channel. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching, and yeah, subscribe for more, all the usual YouTube things. Enjoy, have a good time, and enjoy No Man's Sky. Peace!